Makes you start kicking ass, just like it said at the beginning of the program.
Man of the hour, tower of talent, too sweet to be sour.
Sending your ass on the jabroni jet to the other side of the territory, brother.
The Alabama Hammer.
Nightmares are the best part of my day.
The goods from the wood.
Hot damn!
Welcome to the Goods from the Woods. My name is Rivers Langley.
I'm Sam Harder.
And I'm Carter Glasscock.
And today we are joined once again for the first time, and it's a crime how long this man has been away from the damn show. For the first time since the summer of 2016. I think I mentioned on that episode at the Westwood Brew Co.
Sure. Yeah.
The first great thing that happened when I was first doing stand-up in Los Angeles.
You're one of the few.
Here's what it was I was at the Brew Co. I watched everybody go up, and I watched our guest basically rip a couple people to shreds. And so it was kind of like the end of Toy Story 3 where everybody's on the conveyor belt going towards the fire, and I'm just like, oh God, this guy's gonna kill me, he's gonna end me. And then I did my set, and you were like, very funny, and that was it. I was like, all right, yeah, I did it. Our friend
Robert Yasumura.
Robbie Yasumura is back. Yeah, it has been far too long since I've seen you. This, like I said, our last episode you were on was episode 109, and I think we're sitting at 190,
right?
Or 290, rather.
And we were talking about it that Trump had not been elected by then. We didn't even think it was possible.
We didn't. I believe Mr. Goodnight at the time said he's like, oh, he's a joke candidate, like Eugene Debs or something.
And
like,
you know what?
Boy.
He was.
Yeah, at the time. In summer of 2016, you're like, yeah, this is.
He still is
ridiculous.
He just happens to be president.
He just happens to have won the goddamn thing. And that was also the one where we talked about the clowns, the clown invasion.
We did talk about
that. Yes. That was rampant during that summer.
Yes,
people were seeing clowns everywhere. Do you? I think you were probably still in Nashville at the time.
2016.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah.
It was the Slender Man of its moment.
Yes, it was. There were clowns in the woods. There were clowns at the school. There was in the town of Flomaton, Alabama. There was Flomo the clown, and a woman on the news said,
"I'm waiting on Flomo to step on my grass. I'm gonna put some in the butt."
Flomaton, Alabama, which sounds like a cleaning product. Clean your kitchen with Flomaton.
I think Flomaton, Alabama wishes that it was that good. When their claim to fame is clown sightings, I'm going to go ahead and say they wish the cleaning product was named after them.
Well, it's not. It's clown sightings, and it means you're almost at the beach.
Oh, okay. You see the clown, you're almost at the beach.
Take a left at yonder clown, if you would. Slow down. You see
the scary demon clown lets you know you're just going to be seeing gift shops after that.
Look for the bungee tower. You can't miss it.
When you hit the tar balls, you've gone too far.
Yeah. That's Hangout Fest. A few weeks ago, we did an episode with our friend Rosalie Atkinson about celebrity kids and how every 3 weeks or so, it's revealed that your favorite Oscar winner has a rapping son.
Oh, God, dear Lord.
And it just like Bob Dylan has a rapping grandson.
Oh, God.
Daniel Day-Lewis, rapping son.
Oh, God.
Tom Hanks, rapping son.
Oh.
He's the crown jewel of the celebrity rapping sons.
Chet Hayes is
Chet Hayes.
Unstoppable.
Yeah, oh, God. The patois he was doing.
Oh, boy.
I didn't think it could get worse than celebrity bands like Russell Crowe's band or whatever.
Yeah, 30 Odd Foot of Grunts.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's the name of the band.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Soupy Sale's son was a musician. He was in David Bowie's Tin Machine.
What?
Like, he was in like a good band.
Well, that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I don't mind. If your kid is a musician, that's fine, but keep it to yourself until they're in Tin Machine.
Yeah. There's just a rash of this. And honestly, I ended up finding so much gold for that episode. I didn't get to the whole reason I wanted to talk about that particular subject.
Which is
The curious case of Frank Sinatra Jr.
Plastic flowers in her hair, don't they make a lovely pair? Met last night at the slot machines, him in leathers, her in jeans. All night preacher does the ceremony, his wife throws minute rice, her tears are phony.
This was actually the impetus to do what ended up being the Celebrity Scions episode, because I was like kind of interested in just the concept of, you know, what they call now on the Twitter, they call the fail sons, right? It's like, oh, this person born of great privilege does nothing with their life. This is a guy who really went for it because ultimately he was always trying to get his dad's approval. It's really one of the more tragic stories ever.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah. So,
and to be fair, Frank Sinatra Jr. was a fairly good crooner, but he's not Frank Sinatra.
he doesn't have the charisma. He's got sort of the same tone, but he has none of the things that attract you to Frank Sinatra.
Right.
All the mob ties, though, maybe.
Well, we'll get there. So, this is the story of Frank Sinatra Jr. One rainy night in 1961, a Ford Ranchero speeding through the streets of Los Angeles' Westwood neighborhood when suddenly a small dog ran out into the road directly in front of the car. The driver slams on the brakes and loses control. The vehicle careens along, smashing into the sides of several parked cars before finally hitting a retaining wall and coming to a violent stop. The driver is named Barry Worthington Keenan. Barry had been born in Malibu, and he was raised alongside the kids of such Hollywood megastars as Bob Hope and Robert Mitchum. He graduated from, and I didn't know this was a thing until I read this, University High School near Santa Monica, which...
oh, yeah.
You uncreative fucks, you're calling it University High School?
Yeah.
Barry dropped out of a finance degree at UCLA in order to become the youngest member of the LA Stock Exchange at just 21 years old, finding a considerable amount of success in real estate. And so now he's 21 years old and mangled in a car on Wilshire Boulevard with a broken back. So, enter Frank. Francis Wayne Sinatra was born in New Jersey, Jersey City, on January 10th, 1944. His dad, of course, legendary singer and actor Frank Sinatra. Since Frank's middle name was Albert and Francis's middle name was Wayne, he was not technically a junior, but this turned out to be a distinction without a difference. He was his father's only son and became known by the diminutive second-generation term, the poor son of a bitch never had a chance.
Oh.
It's an awful thing to do to a kid. You're just like setting him up to be compared to him the whole time.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, if you're that famous, you should have a kid in secret. Like, you should not tell them that their parents are famous or wealthy.
Right,
because
right.
it's never worked out well.
No.
Yeah, not one time.
I can't think of a time when, like, a kid of that level of fame has ever done well.
Right.
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, obviously Charlie Sheen, but besides him.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., actually.
Yeah, that's true.
There's probably a bunch, but, you know.
It's probably more common amongst athletes because athletes, and this has actually been an argument that's been made for why athletes tend to be more conservative than, say, actors, because actors realize that there's a certain element of randomness to success, whereas athletes are like, I started here, I worked very hard, and I got here.
Yeah.
Which tends to sort of massage a conservative worldview much more so than just like, hey, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Shit is random. And I think
it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
I can see how that would color, especially raising a kid where it's just like, yeah, it's like, yeah, there's no way of telling, and, you know.
Yeah. So I could understand, like, Dale Earnhardt being like, no, you have to work really fucking hard to be a good racer.
Or Steph Curry. His dad's a basketball player.
Oh, yeah. But by that same time, like Charlie Sheen being like, hey, the money's only going to be here for so long, so snort it up.
Yeah. This is from Frank Jr.'s obituary in the Washington Post. This is how sad this is. This is from his fucking obituary. He had a contentious relationship with the elder Sinatra, who was often called the greatest singer of popular music in the 20th century, but was absent for much of his son's childhood. So even in this guy's obituary, they're like, by the way, his dad was way better.
This is like a Julian Lennon
And he
scenario.
wasn't around. That's a weird thing to be like, hey, he wasn't really around.
Yeah, it's like he couldn't skip town. He's still Frank Sinatra, like he's on TV and shit.
He was a singer, not a daddy.
Daddy was a singer and a Rolling Stone.
Sinatra Jr. recalled wanting to become a pianist and a songwriter from his earliest days. He learned all of his father's music by heart and from an early age sang at family gatherings, obviously desperately seeking his father's approval. His parents divorced when he was a child, and Mr. Sinatra grew up in his mother's home in Bel Air with his two sisters, Tina and Nancy. Ever heard of her?
Oh, these boots are made for walking.
Yeah. So Nancy's there, Tina's there. They both go to University High. Meanwhile, Frank Jr. actually was shipped off to a boarding school for high school. So his sisters are going to public school. Frank was always sort of separated from the rest of the group. He spent a considerable time with Duke Ellington, becoming a proficient musician and, more importantly, learning the music business. He enrolled at the University of Southern California with ambitions of being a pianist and a composer. He joined a singing group at Disneyland and then dropped out of college to become a vocalist with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, one of the bands that helped launch his father's career. So Tommy Dorsey died in 1956, but he had this, what they call the ghost band.
Sure.
So all of the people who used to tour with Tommy Dorsey. Interestingly, Frank Sinatra, does anybody know how Frank Sinatra got out of Tommy Dorsey's orchestra?
No.
I think it was the Mob, wasn't it?
Bingo. Yeah. So Sinatra basically blows a couple of the singles that he does with Tommy Dorsey become wildly successful, and Frank sees a path for his own solo career. So he offers to buy his own contract out from Tommy Dorsey, says, I'll give you $60,000 right now if I can leave. And Tommy Dorsey's like, no, fuck you. And so Frank gets in touch with Sammy the Bull Giancana, and a guy comes over to Tommy Dorsey's house, sticks a 45 in his mouth, and buys Frank Sinatra's contract for $1.
Wow.
As told in The Godfather.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
My father made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
What was that?
Luca Brazzi held a gun to his head, and my father assured him that either his brains or his signature would be on the contract.
Oh, man. Shit, I didn't know that was a real thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shit in The Godfather, man.
Could have gotten $60,000 out of the gig in what, 1944 money?
Yeah.
And you got $1.
Yeah, you got
Which
$1.
still that's a steak dinner at that time, but
So that's just a little side note. So this is from the New York Times music critic John S. Wilton. This is from early 1963. Quote, "The younger Sinatra knows and projects the inflections, the shading, the phrasing that his father used." And that is the best review he ever got. The less charitable critics described him as mimicry.
Is this his obituary?
No, that's from 1963. This is from his obituary. Even though he was billed as Frank Sinatra Jr., he never had the natural charisma on stage that his father had. There was a family resemblance, but his eyes were brown, not blue.
Did an enemy write this?
In his fucking obituary?
Jeff Bezos hated this motherfucker because the Washington Post just buried him in this obituary.
This poor guy.
It's so crazy. In his later years, during his performances, Frank Sinatra Jr. would say, quote, "I am now going to devote 5 minutes to the music of Frank Sinatra because that is exactly how long Frank Sinatra devoted to me."
Yeah. Finally came to terms with that one.
Well, he came to terms with it by the end, only singing his dad's music, but Frank had to die before he would do his music.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Right.
So he ended up sort of getting his fuck you on his old man by being like, yeah, I'll sing your songs, but you won't get the satisfaction until both of your eyes have been closed and you're 6 feet under the dirt. So
sounds like a healthy relationship.
It's a really healthy relationship, as we're going to see. So by September of 1963, we're back to Barry. Barry Keenan was in desperate straits. The medicine that they'd given him for his back injury following the car crash was a little too good, and now Barry was heavily addicted to Percodan, muscle relaxers, heavy tranquilizers. Oh, and he was also drunk all the time, too. So he's gone from being a stockbroker, killing it at age 21, to just being an insane babbling junkie.
Pillhead.
Yeah.
And he had like a freakish amount of money, didn't he? Like for a 22-year-old, he had like he was like a millionaire.
Yes, so
at like 22, and then now he's like flat busted, isn't he?
Yeah, so this is a quote from Barry. Quote, "On a good day, I might have had an hour of rational thinking. Also, the market had a big downturn around that time. In 6 months, I went from earning $10,000 a month to selling transparent window shades door to door out in the valley. For the first time in my life, I'd run out of money completely. So he ain't doing good either. And you're right. He was loaded at the beginning right before the car crash, and now he is on the skids, to say the least.
And he's a child of privilege to boot. So he's never sweated out money.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And also, I love the quote, "On a good day, I might have had 1 hour of rational thinking." That's pretty like Fear and Loathing-ish. I kind of...
To be fair, and I'm stone cold sober, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. 1 hour of lucidity. He wasn't the only one in his family who was fucked up this year. His father had also gone broke, and his mother had attempted suicide. Quote, "I saw myself as the rescuer of my entire family."
God.
Now that ain't good. You ought not be thinking like that.
Yeah.
Those are bad thoughts.
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like a recipe for him to go back to college, really knuckle down, really hard at a career.
Himself, go back, ask for his job back at the stock exchange, try to kick the pills.
Or maybe go build a plumbing business.
Yeah.
Something really, maybe invest in a small property out in the valley.
Buy a small apartment complex, become a slumlord is more dignified than a junkie.
Yeah.
Classic pick yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So,
all right, it's been great.
That's it. And he got back on his feet. No.
Also, Frank Sinatra had a son. Anyways.
Keenan began to hatch a plan to solve all of his family problems at once. Like any plan cooked up by a reprobate junkie, the plan was awesome. Quote, "One day I decided, well, I'm going to have to do something radical here. Suddenly it came to me that the way to solve my problems was to get some money somehow, and it'd have to be illegal."
Yep.
Just then, Keenan's thoughts turned to the kids of the rich and famous celebrities that had attended his high school.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "I originally thought of Bob Hope's adopted son, Tony. But Bob Hope had been very active with entertaining the troops, and he seemed like an all-around good guy."
It's a meritocracy on whose kid to kidnap.
Kidnapping Tony Hope didn't seem like a very American thing to do.
Oh, my God.
You can't kidnap Tony Hope.
It's just
He's a guy. Tony Hope sounds like a cartoon character.
Tony Hope. Yeah.
Tony Hope.
So weird to be a junkie and a patriot at the same time.
Dude, I knew
so
a
many
guy,
must exist.
No, they do. I knew a guy who, like, all he did, he was rich. This is
You're from the Deep South. Of course you did.
It's basically this guy.
Yeah.
His name was... He was rich as shit. He drove one of them giant lifted F-250 trucks. He smoked crack.
Allegedly.
And he had no, I saw it. He smoked crack and he had a Bush Cheney ranch team sticker on the back of his car. And I'm like, you're a crackhead Republican?
Oh, I knew a bunch of kids like that in high school.
Oh,
yeah.
I guarantee at this very moment, there are many places in the Deep South where people are talking about the Republican agenda high out of their mind on meth.
Oh, you don't have to go to the Deep South. You can go over yon mountains.
Yeah.
You can go to the valley. You can go to Lancaster and find that shit.
You can go outside on our street.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, the shanty town. They're actually a polling place for.
I thought you said a bowling place. I was
bowling
I bet they do
place,
have a bunch of stuff they can make a bowling lane.
That would be cool if the shanty town was a polling spot.
Yeah.
Chicken Head over there is going to sign you in.
Yeah, you're going to want to drop that mail-in ballot to hard drive over there.
Here's your I voted sticker. Bok bok. Yeah, so he's not gonna kidnap Tony Hope.
By the way, if your thought is it would be wrong to kidnap that person, you're already you shouldn't be kidnapping people then. Like, you've answered your own question about whether this career choice is right for you.
Then there was Vicki Douglas, whose father was the CEO of Douglas Aircraft. That was eliminated because she was a girl. Jimmy Mitchum.
This guy has scruples.
A gentleman.
A gentleman.
Yeah.
Jimmy Mitchum knew me too well, and his father, Robert Mitchum, I mean, he'd be rich one month and then broke the next. Ooh, shade.
He's a loose cannon, Robert Mitchum.
Yeah. And I went down the list, and I finally thought of Nancy Sinatra, the oldest daughter of Frank. And so then I said, of course, Junior. And of course, I say Junior, and I'm referring to Frank Sinatra Jr., Frank's son. why you have to say that is that's in his quote. I love that. Just completely extraneous information. He continues, quote,
"The man was hard up on pills for many years."
Well, what's crazy is now he's very sober and gives interviews all the time about this shit.
I actually have heard his interviews. He's very lucid. I mean, he's very, very smart, articulate guy.
It's weird for how fucked up his thought process is here, but also when you listen to him talk now, especially, you're like, oh, you're like a poisoned businessman psychopath too, a little bit. Like he's very lucid, but at the same time, like as you're about to hear in a second here, like the shit he's saying is so crazy, but he sells it as logic.
But that's what I thought was impressive about his interviews is that he does put you back into his own mind frame. Like he's like, look, I will explain exactly what I was thinking very clearly.
And it does make a sick sort of sense.
Right.
So we should, if he gives interviews, let's call him on the podcast.
I was trying to figure out where he went exactly, because the last interview he gave, like that I pulled this from, he gave a very extensive interview to the Washington Post in 98 when Frank died. And that's where I pulled a lot of this stuff from. But then he did a recent interview around like 2007, 2008. And last I heard he's in Florida somewhere. But we'll get to the VH1 Where Are They Now in a minute.
They all end up in Florida.
It's just America's storm drain. Everybody ends
and
up there.
Dick.
We all float down here. So, quote, "I decided upon Junior because Frank was tough. And I had friends whose parents were in show business, and I knew Frank always got his way. It wouldn't be morally wrong to put him through a few hours of grief worrying about his son." This is Frank Sinatra, friend of both President JFK, Attorney General RFK, and Sammy the Bull Giancana. Literally the worst celebrity you could do this to.
Yeah.
To have a Ving Rhames type go medieval on your ass for doing such a thing.
Sure.
Well, he did choose the child who Frank didn't like.
I guess, yeah. If
serendipitously,
if he'd kidnapped Nancy, he'd been up shit's creek with a turd for a paddle. Yeah, for sure. But he did.
I've never heard the "with a turd for a paddle" caveat.
You ever heard that one?
No.
That's the whole quote. You're up shit's creek with a turd for a paddle.
That's the whole quote.
Yeah,
like someone said
the whole aphorism.
Oh,
you know?
if you look in Bartlett's, that's how.
So Keenan did his homework, heading to the library to read crime articles written by J. Edgar Hoover himself. He studied kidnappings dating back to biblical times to determine where others went wrong. Covering all his bases, the devout Catholic also spent time regularly petitioning God for help. Quote, "God talked to me, personally, particularly when I'd go to church and light a candle and be still. And I would hear God talking to me and telling me what I had to do. And he was very definite about nobody can be hurt. And I had to pay the money back." So anyway, kidnapping seemed like a good idea, and I put a business plan together before.
See, this is how Christians are, though. If they're like, I'm going to do this fucked up thing, but then I'll pray about it later. Yeah. And I'll be okay.
Well, it's weird because
forgiven.
He's Catholic, but this is the most like U.S. Protestant shit in the world right here. Of like, well, it's wrong, but we have a business plan, and it'll work out in the end, you know?
Yeah, no one will get hurt, and,
That's literally what he says. So anyway, kidnapping seemed like a good idea, so I put a business plan together, but I never referred to it as kidnapping.
Mm-hmm. Borrowing.
Well, problem solved.
Yeah,
you don't call it kidnapping. It's not kidnapping.
And I'm not kidding about the business plan. Barry compiles a 3-ring binder containing a titled index proposal extensively outlining his ideas and the need for adequate funding, and he calls it the plan of operation.
It's always good to create a ton of evidence.
I know! A literal paper trail.
Right.
Just hundreds of documents that tell the cops exactly what you want to do and intend to do.
You mentioned that trip to Staples, just like high out of your fucking mind, thinking God is telling you to kidnap somebody. Like walking, I need a 3-ring binder, I need some plastic sheeting, some pens. I'm going to kidnap somebody.
What? What was that?
Nothing. Just, do you take a rewards card?
Sir, this is the Kinko's. You've handed me a Subway Club card.
Yeah. Okay. I don't understand what you just said.
You're a dragon right now, so chill. All right. Stop juggling fireballs, please.
I'm here because of my boss. His name is God. You ever heard of him?
wanted me to get a few things.
Yeah, he like looks over at his car and God's in there with like sunglasses, like giving him a thumbs up, like keep asking for shit.
God's my boss. Who's your boss? Todd.
I'll talk to Todd.
He's got a bumper sticker that says "God is my co-conspirator."
Yeah. Todd is my co-pilot.
God is going to be my co-defendant.
You just try to lock God away in a jail. It ain't gonna happen, bub. Can't hold down God. And
I'll tell you one thing. God don't snitch.
Yeah.
God don't give states.
Also, this guy's from Malibu, so it really should be like, do you think God is a guy you can put in jail? You can't, dude.
He's like everywhere and nowhere.
He's
dude.
nowhere and everywhere, man. Quote, I wasn't going to hurt anybody. I was just going to ask for $240,000 because I had made a list of all the money I needed, both for investments and to help my parents, and it came out to $240,000. Since I was going to have to pay it back, I didn't want to raise more money than I could easily pay back. I was going to invest in several stocks and some real estate, which eventually became Marina del Rey, the world's largest marina, and if I had gotten the money, it would have turned out exactly the way I'd outlined it in my business plan. So the investments were actually fairly prudent. It was just the concept that was a little off.
Yeah.
This man is a psychopath. Like, that's the craziest shit ever. Like, I can dig a guy who's fucked up on drugs being like, I don't know, it's fucking crazy, man. But a guy who is like outlined line by line, shit's wild.
No, that's the flaw of like how business thinking works. Is like, look, the plan was fine. It was the bank. It was the premise upon which the loan was based. That was the problem.
Other works of satire have criticized this with phrases like, and I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yeah, the mystery gang was the X factor in the crime. Yes. Yes. If it wasn't...
Who of us can say you haven't got all coked out and came up with an idea for a restaurant?
I was going to say, that's most restaurants.
Yeah.
Were successful and unsuccessful, born out of such a discussion.
Oh, yeah. Cake sandwiches. Think about it. Everyone likes cake. Everyone likes sandwiches.
Wait,
cake sandwiches.
Is this your idea, Carter? Let's run down some of your restaurant ideas.
Do you have samples with you? Don't drop that without bringing something to the party, my friend.
This joke turned into an actual business.
Actually, we'll stop recording and just work on. Let's focus. Let's do some gator tails.
Yeah.
And let's fucking focus. All right. What we need is we need cocaine. Cocaine forthwith and think.
Here's the thing: shoes that are also iPhones. Okay. Think about it. Everyone has to wear shoes. Everyone has a fucking phone these days.
Make it a Bluetooth shoes.
Yeah, Bluetooth shoes.
Shoe tooth. We did it.
We did
to the drawing board.
Fuck yeah, I can't feel my face.
There's just a guy slamming his head into the wall in the background.
See, but my feeling about that is, okay, you had a bad idea on cocaine. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
You had a bad idea stone cold sober. That's on you.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like Cats.
Right.
Movie.
Right. Yes.
That was not cocaine induced. Like, people who were sober chose to make that film.
Join us on Patreon. We reviewed the Cats film a few weeks ago.
We did. Tom Hooper, straight sober.
Tom Hooper directed that film. Also has an Oscar for Best Picture. He was the director of The King's Speech. Yeah. Best Picture winner. So with a very solid plan coming together, Barry Keoghan picks up the phone in October of 1963, and he calls his best friend from high school, Dean Torrance. Now, since graduating University High, Barry has put together several investments for Dean, and they have actually turned a profit. And now Barry has come to Dean for a favor. After all, they're like brothers. Also, Dean has just had the #1 song in America on the radio just weeks ago. It's Dean from Jan and Dean.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, the guy singing the high harmony there, that's Dean.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you're thinking, this sounds exactly the fuck like the Beach Boys, this song was co-written by Brian Wilson and Jan Barry. Dean is the other guy singing. So this was the #1 song in America until about 2 weeks before this phone call. So Dean is fucking loaded right now. He has not in a Barry way. He's actually got money to burn.
So wait, why didn't he just call Dean and say, "Can I have some money?"
Oh, he did.
Oh, okay.
He called Dean. So that's right. Dean Torrance is Dean from Jan and Dean, and now his pilled out, insane, shit-faced friend is on the phone asking for startup capital in the ransom of Frank Sinatra's only son that can eventually be parlayed into financial rebound and eventual windfall for his friends and family. It makes perfect sense.
Wait a second. He asked for the seed money for the kidnapping. No, he didn't just say, "Can you give me some seed money to do the investment?"
Yes.
He added the kidnapping step.
Yes.
He just wanted to do the kidnapping.
He just wanted to do the kidnap. He asked him instead. His best friend, has the #1 song in America, and he, to your point,
I can show you some paperwork.
I've done. He did it. They met each other at the Tommy Trojan statue on the campus of USC. Dean remembers this shit. He's like, I brought a sack lunch because I figured he was half out of his mind. He brought the 3-ring binder with the crime he intended to commit to Dean and was like, hey man, I got this great idea.
Wow.
And Dean,
Dean did not go to the police.
No, he didn't.
Wow, today that would have been a PowerPoint presentation. It would have been like,
yeah. Come inside this dark room. I'm going to show you on the PowerPoint what I plan to do.
It's just like stick drawings of him holding another stick drawing.
A stick gun.
And then cut to the one where he's just holding the money. He's like, it has a big smiley face on his. Oh, he's like, it's gonna work. See,
it's like a bunch of bass, poorly drawn bass clefs, treble clefs all around.
So this is Barry talking. Quote: I asked Dean not to react until he'd heard the whole thing, which is fucking perfect druggy thing. Listen, man. Look, it's gonna
hear me out.
Hear me out, bro. Hear me out. Don't react until you've heard the whole thing. So I went about saying we're gonna do this kidnapping, only it's not really a kidnapping. I'm just gonna go through the process of kidnapping because I need money to make these investments that would allow a quick return.
I am holding someone against their will for ransom, but it's not a kidnapping per se.
The thing that makes a kidnapping is what the kidnappers do afterwards with the money. They just blow it. I'm gonna invest it.
Look, I was just
Barry,
looking.
that's not the way it works. No! You don't interrupt me.
I'm not going to imprison him forever.
It's a false imprisonment, you see, because it's not
Because
real.
it's not real, because I intend to give him up. That's the way kidnapping works. So you get the money and they...
Barry, do you want the other half of the sandwich? Or
Are
you hungry?
The sack lunch is my favorite thing because this motherfucker, he's got all this money. He's like very Billie Eilish, right? He's young. Yeah. He's got all this money. He lives with his parents still. And he just doesn't know what to do with all this money. And then his crazy friend is calling him. And he makes that detail. In every interview I read with Dean Torrance, he was like, yeah, we met at USC campus. I brought a sack lunch because I knew it was going to take a while. So, yeah.
I felt like he was going to probably incriminate himself. So I made a banana sandwich. I figure, I'm hungry. I'm going to,
And I thought maybe he'd want to invest in my idea of making a banana sandwich restaurant, So
cocaine was huge back then.
It's the best because he literally just defines kidnapping. I'm just going to go through the process because I need money to make these investments that would allow a quick return. And ultimately, I'm going to pay Frank Sinatra back because that's the only way I could get the sin forgiven in the Catholic Church. You have to make amends and restitution. God told me so. So he intends to get the money from Frank and then... a little bit of alakazam, a little bit of capitalism happening, and poof, he's going to give the money back eventually. It's a loan from Frank Sinatra that just happens to involve endangering his only son. It's not a kidnapping.
To be fair, on the scale of Catholic sins, it's not the worst I've heard.
No, decidedly not. Dean did the most obvious thing. He gave Barry $500 and told him, hey, you try to get your life together and let me know how things go.
$500 at that time, you could buy a car for $500.
It's a fucking shit ton of money in 1963. It's a crazy amount of money, but he's like, hey,
here's enough for a gun.
Yes, and a tank of gas to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Several tanks of gas and a car. You could probably get a gun, a car, and several tanks of gas
and to
for
be fair,
$500.
for $500 at that time, you could probably get a really good shrink.
Yeah. Or you could buy a bunch of stocks and bonds. You get some T-bonds, Get a Roth IRA. Get some shit together. I don't know.
Actually, to be fair, the Roth IRA, I think, was invented in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Fair. So
it is a very, I mean, again, Dean's not a qualified medical professional, but it is a thing if someone says something very like incriminating and you just throw money at it. It's like, here, just take a bunch of money. Just
go away, Please
don't, man. I'm kind of riding a Marvy Groove wave right now.
Yeah,
I don't
dude.
really want, you're bumming me out, dude.
Yeah, that's what I was honestly thinking when I was researching this. I'm like, this guy is so flush with cash. He is just killing it. He's just had the number one record on the radio for an entire summer. And now he's got his most depressing friend with a broken back who's fucking hooked on pills. And that is literally what I think is he gave him $500 to stop bumming him out.
Wiping away, marshmallow sandwich from his mouth. And he's like, dude, I don't know.
Dude,
can you just be happy for me, dude?
That must have brought him, that must have been a good thing, though, for Dean. If you think about it, like, he could easily have told himself a story that he was like this special person who deserved all this money. And then he has to meet with his friend who comes from exactly the same circumstances as him, who is clearly broken as shit. It probably did a good thing for Dean's head of like, oh, wait. I'm not special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dean later claimed he was certain that Barry had cooked the whole thing up as a preposterous way to borrow some money from him. Quote, I don't think I ever took him seriously, Dean said. It was just so insane. So, famous last words.
Sure.
He just thought he was kidding.
To be fair, it was a preposterous thing he cooked up to get money from Dean.
This is where we start the Mission Impossible music. With $500 in hand, Barry had to get himself a crew. He didn't find that exactly.
Solid guys.
I need some stand-up guys. So he found
Smash cut to Dean Martin as the driver.
Oh, buddy. He found a boxer and an abalone shellfish diver named Joe Amsler. Amsler had recently married and he needed some cash, and Amsler thought that the plan was dumb as fuck, but he agreed to play along for $100 a week that Keenan offered him.
Nice.
Barry also recruited his mom's 42-year-old boyfriend, John Irwin, because, quote, he sounded tough on the phone. So this guy's probably called this motherfucker up and been like, where the fuck are you? Are you drunk at the, down the,
Hey, hold on a second. I just got done fucking your mom. What can I do for you?
What can I do you for?
Wait, and let's remember, his mom had killed herself, right?
Attempted.
So this is the guy who called him and said, your mom just attempted suicide.
Yeah. Well, your mother found her hanging up. I got her down,
You sound tough.
You sound tough on the phone.
Jeez, mister. You sure sound tough on the phone. Well, thank you.
Sounds like mom's in good hands.
Thank you. Strong men also cry. So his soldiers are now in place, and the plan of operation is ready for mobilization. In late November, after scoping out one of Frank Jr.'s concerts at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, Barry and his crew followed Frank Jr. back to his apartment, and now they have an address. The crew knew that this would be the perfect place to make the grab.
What year is this?
1963.
So Frank Jr.'s, he's 19.
Yeah.
Okay.
19 years old. The next day was a USC versus UCLA football game. The perfect alibi for Barry. Barry got a motel room around the corner to use as a headquarters, bought tickets to the game. The idea was after the nab, Jr. would be hustled down to a house in a secluded area in suburban Canoga Park, and Keenan had rented that house under the name Frank A. Long.
You wonder what those hours of lucidity were spent like. The 1 hour a day of lucidity, he was just in an apartment all of a sudden, like near USC. He's like, this is kind of nice.
And again, to our earlier point, notice how far $500 is going.
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah, no shit.
Well, to be fair, it's Canoga Park.
It's Canoga Park, yeah.
But if he had just taken that $500 and done what everybody else in Canoga Park does and made porn, he could have
bought a movie camera.
Good money. Yeah.
God, he would have made so much money. Yeah. Jesus.
The sucking and fucking, I'm telling you, there's money behind it.
The morning of the kidnapping came. Keenan picked up the phone to make one last phone call, and he got the motel's switchboard operator. She managed, between sobs, to inform Keenan that The president had had his head blown off in Dallas. It was November 22nd, 1963.
Jesus
God,
Christ.
what a picture is being painted here.
So that was the big day. We're like, fuck it, we got the day. November 22nd, 1963. Perfect. And so everything in America is shut down because Kennedy got shot.
Yeah.
What a perfect day for a kidnapping. It's almost like God was telling him.
Maybe this is a bad idea.
One of Frank Sinatra's high-profile friends, the president.
Bingo. Yeah. One of his high-profile friends who was probably killed by one of his other high-profile friends.
Sure.
So at this point, and most of this from here on out is going to be from the Washington Post article, everyone had just kind of moved on, but the ringleader wouldn't give up. He found out that Junior was next headed to Nevada and then to Europe. So it was Lake Tahoe or bust. He hit up Torrance for another $500, which he gave him. So now Dean has given him $1,000, which is like $750 million in today's money.
The takeaway from this is Dean Torrance is a stand-up guy.
He really is a bro. Dude, if you're down and out, Dean is a bro. A solid bro. No questions asked.
By the way, Dean Torrance, if you want to give to the Patreon page.
Yeah.
He is actually, we're going to, we got a little bit of him in the VH1 Where Are They Now at the end. He is the unofficial mayor of Huntington Beach.
No shit.
Is there an official mayor in addition to that?
I think they call him like the ambassador or something.
That's one of those things that you could call yourself the unofficial mayor of Huntington Beach. It sounds like one of those like... You just walking down the street, some assholes outside the Starbucks going, "Hey, it's me, Your Honor."
It's like that Emperor Norton shit in San Francisco, where it's like the town crazy, and they're like, "You're the king." He's like, "Great, I'm the king of all the pigeons."
My first official decree as mayor is to poop on this corner.
Oh my god!
So yeah, hit up Dean Torrance for money. He will give it to you, no questions asked.
Dude, Dean gave him $500 and
twice.
So
Jesus.
the second time, Amsler is out of work. So the clam diver,
from the abalone diver,
the abalone diver from the previous team, he's out of work. So Keenan decides, I'm going to play the angles. I'm going to get this guy back on the crew. I said, Joe, let's go up to Lake Tahoe and get a job. There's construction jobs up there. I did not tell him that Junior was up there. It sounded like a good deal to him. So we arrive in Lake Tahoe, and Joe sees Frank Sinatra Jr.'s name on the marquee at Harrah's Casino. He said, "Hey, wait a minute. You're not still thinking about kidnapping Frank Sinatra Jr., are you?" I said, "Joe, don't you worry about it." So
wily like a fox. This guy is.
He's brought this guy who's a clam diver, an abalone diver, and an up and coming boxer. He's brought them there under the pretenses of being a construction worker, and now all of a sudden he's like, "Oh shit, we have to kidnap Frank Sinatra Jr. now."
Again. Just do the construction job.
Just do the jobs.
Oh, it would have been great.
You've had so many opportunities to get out of this.
You have $500. You were able to rent a house for a month.
You could have just gone up there and learned how to do construction. Send some money back. Maybe get your contractor's license in a couple of years.
Become Dean Torrance's personal assistant.
Yeah, he's obviously giving money away.
See if Dean Torrance wants a house. He's still living with his folks. Build his house.
Become a real estate agent. Sure. Sell him a house.
Yeah.
Sell him a fucking huge mansion and get a giant percentage of it in commission.
It's like, nah, kidnapping Sinatra Jr. is the way to go.
Yeah, this is clearly the path.
Listen, we've committed to what's in the binder.
Yeah. While Amsler is busy applying at construction offices, Keenan shadowed Junior's movements and went to his performances.
Hold on, I just want to say for the record, Deutsche Bank would have given them the money.
Yes, yeah.
Just want to be clear.
So I love that they get to Tahoe. The guy's like, "I'm not doing this." So he's actually applying for jobs at construction things, which was the point of going up there.
Yeah.
Amsler's going around being like, "Hey, can I work construction?" Meanwhile, Keenan's like just going out to the fucking showroom every night to watch Frank Jr. and like kind of, spy on him, see where he's going. And
which is suspicious enough just the fact that you're the one person who goes to watch Frank Sinatra Jr. He's not a guy with a lot of fans.
Well, so at the time, I mean, he's 19, and he was still sort of the time period is important, right? It's actually extremely important because you have to think 1963, November of 63. We just heard the music that's huge, right? So it's this lull where they talk about a lot in music history, especially where like
this is pre-Beatles.
Yeah, it's literally so close to the Beatles, but it's not quite there. Like they talk about this in music history all the time.
But this kind of music is dead.
It's kind of on an upswing again because of it's the sound of reactionary America at that point because rock and roll for all intents and purposes kind of died in 1959. That's where Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper, all them guys die. Elvis goes into the army. Chuck Berry gets arrested. Little Richard converts to Christianity. And that's when you get sort of the rise of Motown and a lot more sort of, pop, what they would call like contemporary, like pop music and stuff.
And the counterculture's listening like folk music. And
yes. So this is like the rise of Bob Dylan on the left. And then on the right, Frank Sinatra is very much associated with an older America. So to go see his son, playing with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra for a certain crowd at that time, it's very much the way that old people love Pete.
Comforting.
It's the way old people love Pete Buttigieg. They're like, oh, what a nice boy.
Right.
You know what I mean? They'd be going to see this shit being like, oh, this just makes me feel like it's 1942.
Right.
Oh, yeah, dude. R.I.P. Pete, by the way.
Did he drop out?
He dropped out,
out today. Which I was shocked by the way.
Yeah.
I thought he would try to get through Super Tuesday, but...
Wow. I've been writing this all day. I wouldn't want... that was just...
to be.
Oh, boy. So he was popular at this time, and he even talks about in some sad quotes I'm going to read later where he's like, boy, I had a minute there.
Oh, okay.
Because what happens is Kennedy dies in November of 63. The Beatles are on Ed Sullivan in February of 64.
Wow.
There are 2 months. There's a window of exactly 2 months where this guy might be able to shoot his shot and become something. So Amsler's applying for jobs. So he's the one smart person here. And this guy's kind of like creeping on Frank Sinatra's shows at he's playing the main room at Harrah's in Tahoe, granted, not Vegas, but still.
Right.
Not a minor.
Not a minor room at all. So days passed. Keenan says he eased Amsler back into the idea of finally doing the job. And he said he did so with the assistance of a steady supply of beer and pills. Which, how that makes you more... apt to talk
it's a thinking man's diet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, beer and pills.
Yeah, get the ideas flowing.
Days passed, and Keenan decided that the abduction would take place Sunday, December 8th. One factor in helping him pick this critical date was that they were out of money. So even if they had wanted to leave Tahoe, they did not have enough cash to pay the hotel bill and did not have enough money for gas to get back to L.A.
Ew.
Quote, it became now we had to kidnap Frank Sinatra Jr. because we had to do it just to get out of the hotel. As crazy as that sounds, that's what it's boiled down to. I needed to...
So wait, their plan at this point, we're going to kidnap him, get the ransom money, pay the hotel bill.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a moment where they're like, can you break 1,000 to like the hotel?
Oh, Robert, that moment is coming.
What happened to that construction job?
Yeah, that fell through. God, it's so hard to
Well, he was applying, but then I guess they ran out of money.
But then most of the construction people were like, so abalone diving, huh?
Yeah. What the fuck? A boxer? You're a boxer and you dive for snails?
You know, we kind of need you to just be able to like walk on roofs.
Yeah, can you lift some shit?
Yeah.
So he's gaslighting him. Essentially, he's like, bro, we are not going to be able to get back to LA. The only way that we can go home is we have to kidnap Frank Sinatra Jr. There's no other way.
As someone who just had a case of beer and several pills, I hear you.
Yeah, like I'm hearing you. Absolutely.
So Keenan went into the intricate final prep mode. He got a box of wine, an empty box of wine from a liquor store, and filled it with pine cones, intending to pass as a delivery boy. Logically, if questioned, he could say that he was taking the pine cones to Junior's room for holiday decoration. Plus, quote, there were lots of pine cones in Lake Tahoe. So,
okay.
Smart man.
I mean,
yeah,
the old pine cone in the wine box trick.
You've heard it once. You've heard it 1,000 times. Delivery boys have pine cones. It's just the thing.
Sometimes you got to rely on the classics.
The old Trojan pine cone box.
Trojan wine box full of pine cones.
That's also how you can get a woman to touch your dick. As you
putting your dick in with the pine cones.
Pine cones, sure.
And she gets so distracted by grabbing pine cones.
Sure.
Yeah, like in movie theaters and shit. You have a bucket full of pine cones.
Yeah. It's boy, I miss my youth. Good times. Good times.
Oh God! On that Sunday night, Sinatra Jr. is sitting in his underwear eating a chicken thigh in room 417 at Harrah's in Lake Tahoe. With him is 26-year-old John Foss, a trumpet player in the Dorsey band. He too is eating chicken. Keenan and Amsler pull the car up to the stairwell of the hotel, and Keenan hands Joe a gun, unloaded. His own.
Sell the gun. Go home.
Sell the gun.
Jesus.
The gun will get you $5, and that will get you to and from LA
Will
7
get you
times.
bus fare home. Go sell a gun.
There's 2 guns. He's got 2 of them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, sell both guns. His own gun is loaded, save for 1 empty chamber. Keenan gets up to
playing Russian roulette on this kidnapping?
No, it's the opposite of Russian roulette. It's all loaded. Except
it's
for
all
one.
loaded,
Yeah,
rather.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's they call that Finnish roulette.
Oh.
That's the old you don't keep a hammer on a loaded chamber.
Yes, yeah.
John Wayne did that in the movies.
That's right. You got to keep it single action, not double action. Keenan gets up to the door with the gun in his belt under his coat. Wine box full of pine cones nestled beneath his arms, just as normal as anything you can imagine. Terrified, Amsler reaches the top of the stairs slowly with his hand shaking, and he locks eyes with Keenan, who reaches his fist up, knuckles inches from the door, seconds away from a knock that will change their lives. Quote, I knock on the door and Junior says, come on in. Joe turned white. Keenan turned the doorknob and I said, hey guys, I got a package for you. Junior says, put it over there. Keenan puts the package down and grabs for his gun, except it gets stuck on his jacket. He's yanking at the thing as Junior swallows a bit of chicken thigh. Finally, it sort of flew out, and I cocked it in Junior's face. I could see he was looking at the bullets, and I said, don't make any noise, and nobody will get hurt. Don't make any noise. Sort of like a stuck record. And then I started taking charge. He said, don't make any noise or anybody will get hurt twice. I said, both of you get over and lie on the floor. This is a robbery. Where is your money? Foss has no money. Junior has $20. By this time...
Bus fare. Go home.
Take the 20 and leave.
Take the 20.
Yeah. By this time, Amsler has entered the room and he is shaking uncontrollably, perhaps more shocked than anybody. Keenan tells him to get the money, but he doesn't move. He tells him again and finally points the gun at Amsler, and then back at Junior, and then back at Amsler, and then over at Foss. Joe, get the money. According to the plan of operations, they were supposed to be addressing each other with the names of presidents. Too late for that. He called him Joe.
William Howard Taft, get the money.
Rutherford B. Hayes, God damn you. So he said his real fucking name, which is great.
Jeez, how have the Coen brothers not made this into a movie?
This is my point. I'm making this. This is my second Coen brothers movie based on some real shit behind the woman who got hit by a meteorite that we did a couple of years ago. So Amsler gets the money and says, let's go. But they don't. I pointed the gun at him and said, no, we're going to have to take one of you guys with us. You in the dark hair, pretending like I didn't know who he was. You're going to go with us so we can escape.
Wow, that little bit of guile
Yes.
really helps. How?
Oh, buddy, it's so funny. So Foss is tied up with adhesive tape. Amsler, Keenan, and Junior leave the room and make for the car. Once inside the car, Keenan obviously realizes he left his gun in the hotel room.
God damn it.
So, quote, I went up to get it. When I got there, Foss was already up and getting untied. I told him.
This is a cartoon-like robbery.
They're so fucking shitty at this. But this is the best part, is because he's still a fucking accountant. He does a little bit of math. I said, don't move for 10 minutes. But I'd been gone for less than 1 minute, and he was already kind of moving around, and I'd already said 10 minutes, but I figured I'll make it 5 now because I told him not to move for 5 minutes, and I figured we'd already used 5 minutes of the 10 minutes. Obviously, it was the fair and decent thing to do.
You're letting this guy know it's like, he's not going to kill me.
Yeah, you're just very clearly making it known that you're no threat. So, yeah, he literally goes up there and pontificates upon how much time has passed, where he'd said, don't move for 10 minutes. He comes up, the guy had moved, and instead of hitting him with the fucking gun to make a point, he was like, okay, well, get back down 5 minutes. Don't move for 5 minutes. Even though he's about to escape and call the cops. So back downstairs, Junior is placed in the back seat with a sleeping mask over his eyes, but that guy back in the room, he's going to get loose soon, and so he's going to call the cops, and this could be a problem. Quote, we were trying to figure out what to do. Before I made up my mind, I turned around and asked Junior, what was his name? And he said, I'm Frank. I said, Frank, your friend's going to get up, and I'm concerned that there's going to be gunplay. There's one way that we can work this out, and that's if you play along with us and you pretend that we're just guys out having a good time. So now they want Frank Jr. to be an actor. And pretend that they're like wasted guys. This is all pretending that they're shit-faced, basically, and the cops are just going to let them go.
A little Weekend at Bernie's action for
Bingo.
you.
Yeah.
Somehow that's crueler. Like asking like your victim to act.
Asking your victim, who specifically is a guy like Frank Sinatra Jr. that just wants to be accepted. And now he's got some very, as they say in today's parlance, some very toxic friends. So there's one way this is going to work out, and that's if we all pretend we're having a good time. Keenan recalls Junior saying, hey, you don't have to worry about me. I'll play along, and hey, you better take off my signet ring. I am Frank Sinatra Jr. Somebody might notice my FS signet ring.
Oh, God.
So he just fucking tells him. Frank Sinatra Jr. is like, oh, by the way, I'm a highly valuable commodity. Because he's still working under the delusion that this is just them using him to get out of Tahoe because they robbed him or whatever.
Well, it's good to know the victim is as stupid as the kidnapper.
Everyone. That's why this is the perfect Coen Brothers movie. Everyone is stupid.
Okay. Everybody's participating in the foolishness.
Yes.
Okay.
So Keenan says, quote, he was very quick, starting to be one of the co-conspirators. We were in the car maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I said, Frank, what we should do is to make it look like you're drunk. So here, take these Nimbutal sleeping pills and take a swig of this whiskey. Frank was very cooperative. So Frank just takes the sleeping pills and the whiskey.
My God.
Gets himself fucking...
The fastest Stockholm Syndrome in history.
It's crazy. He was in the car for 10 minutes. And he's like, hey, you know what is really crucial when you've been kidnapped is I want to be as little aware as possible.
Honestly, guys, it's just nice to be accepted, to be honest with you.
You know when the worst time to be proactive? A kidnapping.
Well, maybe he was like, I'm kidnapped and I might as well catch a buzz.
Yeah, that's some rich kid shit. That's honestly, I think, what that shit is. This is him just being like, dude, fuck me up, dude.
Yeah.
Actually, I wouldn't have been surprised if they said, take this Nembutal. He's like, I'm already ahead of you. I'm 3 in already.
Baby.
You've kidnapped me. You want me to drug myself? Sure.
Yeah. Baby, you happen to have caught me halfway through a chicken thigh and halfway between the stars in New York City.
By the way, still Frank Sinatra's one and only son.
And I love he has a fucking signet ring with FS on it. Oh, God. Obviously, Foss gets free and calls the cops, and the word on the crime is out. And now a blizzard is setting in onto Lake Tahoe.
Wow.
But luckily...
And Kennedy was shot again.
But luckily, Keenan thought ahead and put on snow chains. Coming down the mountain out of the worst of the storm, they rounded a sweeping turn, and suddenly there are blue lights up ahead, shining into the night. An oasis of danger. A roadblock.
By the way, you blew my mind when you said he put chains on the car. Like, that is the first smart thing
The only thing in this whole
How
story.
is that the only thing they figured out?
Amsler did it. I'm convinced. There's no way Barry thought of this himself. The guy going to look for a job is like, oh, I think I should put on some snow tires, boss.
Yeah.
Is that okay? I mean, he's a boxer, so I am imagining him just as like,
he knows weather conditions. He's a abalone.
Yeah.
Fisherman.
Yeah, he dives for shells.
Yeah, so,
snails. So there's a roadblock. Keenan stops the car half a mile from the roadblock. Quote, I knew they were looking for 3 people, so I pulled over and said, Joe, you get back to L.A. as best you can.
On foot?
Frank and I will go through the roadblock. I'll let Frank go somewhere down the road and we'll meet up later. Poor hapless Amsler runs full tilt into the woods.
And it's snowing.
It's a blizzard. Quote, I get out and I take the chains off the car when a sheriff comes by driving up. A guy jumps out while the driver has a gun on me, and I said, what's going on, officer? He said, oh, nothing. We're just looking for some people. He gets back in his car and drives back to the roadblock. So Amsler goes running in the woods. The cops see him, pulls a gun on him. He's like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like, oh, I'm just changing my snow tires. And they're like, okay. And then the cops just leave. Quote, I said to Frank that he'd done well. And as soon as we get past the roadblock, we'd let him out. He says, I told you don't have anything to worry about, but you better not leave your friend out here. So Frank Sinatra Jr. is a nice guy. He says, and I don't know when this would have happened. I guess maybe in New Jersey. Frank Jr. says, I've lived in snow conditions, and he could die very quickly. And I think Frank was sincerely concerned for the guy. Keenan starts calling for Joe. Then we heard Joe rustling in the bush, and he comes out. And I said, what happened? And he said, I ran into a fence post, and I think I got knocked out.
This is some Keystone Cops bullshit right here.
It's literally the woman in Fargo.
The two
She runs into a
Stooges.
tree and knocks herself out.
It is some Three Stooges type shit.
He knocks himself the fuck out.
And there was only 2 of them, and then they picked up Frank, and he is the 3rd Stooge now.
Yeah.
Oh no, they still got the mom's boyfriend. He couldn't come on this trip, but he's gonna come back here in a minute. So it's 4 Stooges. We got.
This is amazing.
He knocks himself the fuck out on a tree while he's running through a blizzard.
I can tell you why this film has never been made. It's because there's no one to root for.
Exactly.
They're all too stupid.
Oh, this is like the what Uncut Gems is to gambling. This is to kidnapping. There is no one to root for, but it's so fun.
I'll tell you, get some big names in it, get a big director, and get it through the Sinatra family, and you got yourself
that's
a green
the problem.
light.
That's the problem there.
Gotta
Yeah.
get through this.
So he knocks himself out.
By the way, Sinatra, he left incredible legal documents that protect him forever.
No shit,
man, I
really?
believe it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because when he was alive, he saw things after Elvis had died, he saw Elvis's face being put on everything. And he was like, not me, boy.
Yeah,
He had a family meeting where there was a long discussion about how do we make sure this never happens to me.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think you could get this film made.
He pulls out the Elvis clock with the legs that go back and forth. He's like, I want to avoid this.
Yeah. This.
Yeah. But yeah, he knocks himself the fuck out. I told him that they had seen 2 people, so now he has to get in the trunk. So the cops saw 2 people in the car. There can't now be 3. So now Amsler, presumably bleeding from the head, now has to get in the frozen trunk of this car and drive through the roadblock. So they get to the roadblock. One guy waves me through, and another guy puts a shotgun up and says, "Stop the fucking car, or I'll blow you right out of it."
Whoa.
So I put on the brakes, roll down the window, and he puts the shotgun on the windowsill. And I said, "Hey, we've already been searched, officer." And he says, "Well, we're going to search you again." Then the first 2 cops arrive on the scene and go, "That's all right. We already checked him out." So the guy with the shotgun says, "Son, let me tell you something. When you come to a roadblock, you better stop the fucking car. All right?" I said, "Yes, sir. And I will always stop for roadblock if that ever happens again." As we pulled away, Junior says, "Who does that shit? Who does he think he is talking like that?" And I was like, "Yeah." So Frank Jr. is down as fuck. He's just like, wow, that cop was being a real dickhead.
To be fair, it's something everybody can get behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I've had those run-ins with cops and been like, fucking pigs.
Yeah, no, for sure. But were you being kidnapped?
I would, looking back on it, if I had been kidnapped, I still would have been like, fuck that guy.
Hell yeah, dude. That's like when Bill O'Reilly was interviewing Cameron. He's like, when he did the stop snitching thing, he was like, even if there was a serial killer, he's like, it's not my business, man.
Yes, that's kind of how I feel at that moment.
That's fair.
The best part of that interview is when Cameron just starts going, you mad.
A few miles down the road, Keenan pulls over, he pops the trunk, and out comes Joe, teeth chattering. Joe's had a shit night. I gotta say, he didn't want to do this. He didn't want to. He's very Dante and Clerks. I wasn't even supposed to be here today.
Yeah.
So this whole thing is based on you tricking me to coming to this stupid bullshit.
To be fair, Ansler signed up for this. Like, Ansler knew who this guy was.
That's true.
Went to Tahoe with him. Went on a road trip with him. That was mistake number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe has just had a shit day, and he gets out of the trunk and says, "Hey, do you got that whiskey?" So, so that's the first thing he's concerned with. The whiskey bottle is close to dead, and Keenan flicks on the radio. It's a voice saying that Frank Sinatra Jr. has been kidnapped. They then play, and this is the tragedy of Frank Sinatra Jr. They announce that he's been kidnapped, and then they play one of his dad's songs.
Oh, boy. Can't catch a break, can you, JR?
Even at the thing you will be most famous for forever, they don't even play one of your goddamn songs.
The thing that makes me saddest about this is that Frank Sinatra Jr. and these two guys didn't just go on a crime spree from there forward. Like, he didn't just say, I'm in.
Yeah, become like I'm part of the Bonnie.
Yeah, I'm part of the gang. Let's hit a liquor store. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, and this is the best part. So they announce he's been kidnapped, and Junior says, why do they think this is a kidnapping? He still hasn't figured it out.
That's got to be the pills talking.
Yeah.
Isn't that just like the radio stations to exploit this? He literally goes, fake news in the middle of his own kidnapping.
I don't know. I guess, yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Is that what we're calling hanging out with your best friends these days? Is getting kidnapped?
Yeah, I mean, you guys, I've known you for 15 minutes, but like, we're already like the best friends I've ever had, you know?
Maybe he was still under the impression of what he told him at the beginning was true.
No, he is.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
We're just using you to get away. We're not going to fucking hold you captive.
I got to tell you, this is not an advertisement for the quality of scholarship at University High School.
Yeah.
Well, no, he went to a boarding school.
Okay.
Well, I guess not for Keenan, but yeah, Frank Jr. went to a boarding school.
That boarding school doesn't sound like any great shakes either.
They're pretty stupid over there too. At this point, we reassured each other that we weren't going to hurt each other, and if we hit any more roadblocks, we're one big happy family on this drive through the night together. That's his quote.
Just three guys hopped up on beer and pills.
And they've stolen Frank Sinatra
Which,
Jr.
to be fair, in 63 was not a crime.
No, hell no. They were, the swerving. Just amazing swerving. Had to be. Those cars are hard to steer. I've steered a big old car from the 60s like that once or twice. The shits are hard sober. So they've gone through the roadblock. Amsler's been rescued from a frozen death. Drugs and booze have been enjoyed. Ritual road trip bonding has occurred between these three young men. And Junior is convinced that finally, as the car pulls into the driveway of the safe house in Canoga Park, that the robbery will be at an end and he will be allowed to go free.
Little does he know he's about to do porn.
This is Lexington Steel.
Hey, how you doing, Frank Sinatra Jr.?
Wow.
Wow, Frank, this is called a solo scene.
We get in the house. This is my favorite part of the whole story. We get in the house and I tell him, Frank, this actually is a kidnapping. He went ballistic. He was so angry, and it seemed bizarre to me that he would get angry at the kidnappers, not for kidnapping him, but for lying to him. This is a man who's been abused by his father. Like, that's totally what that is. Like, what? But I thought we were going to play catch.
You don't respect me enough to not tell me?
You said you were taking me fishing. Now you're going to New York again. Like, that's what that is. It's just
No, you can tell it's this kind of person. It's you've made me look foolish.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
this very Trumpish.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
don't like I have been going along with this.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me I should have known. I should have
known
I should have
better.
been wise to this.
Yeah.
Now you've made me look stupid. Now I'm gonna lose my shit.
I told him we could get this thing over quickly, and we just asked for the phone number of his dad. And he said, I am not going to give you guys anything. You guys lied to me.
And my dad did not give me his phone number.
I don't know where he is. And he says, you're going to have to shoot me now. Keenan says, I was going to call his bluff, and, well, I guess I'm going to have to shoot you. And then Joe jumps in and takes Junior aside and says, listen, I know this guy. He's crazy. He might shoot you. He might shoot me, too. But Junior still wouldn't budge. Quote, we're really screwed, Keenan says. Now what do we do? The mastermind goes, well, I didn't plan for this.
I didn't plan for him to not give up a phone number that I can look up.
Keenan, but he's got his ace in the hole. Are you ready for this? Keenan calls his mom's ex-boyfriend.
That's right.
And his response is, Jesus Christ, you did it? Keenan begs him to come over. Look, John, you knew about it. You got two choices. You can turn us in, or you've got to help. Look, I put all these guilt trips on him, and look, I mean, things I've done for him, plus his share of the ransom was $40,000, and I said, hey, look, think of what you could do with $40,000. And so then he agrees to make one phone call with his tough voice. It's the one thing he's good at. So now it's Monday morning, and Keenan has to drive back to Lake Tahoe, pay his hotel bill, clean the evidence from the room. The problem is he doesn't have any money. So Barry goes back to Surf City, back to Dean Torrance, and Dean has now heard about the kidnapping because it's everywhere. Quote, I go over to Dean's house, and for some reason he was a little shaken. I said I needed money, and we drove to the bank. And that was a very strange drive. Very quiet. I was disappointed that he wasn't more elated like I was. He gave me $500 more.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Dean's a bad person.
Dean only has one increment of money, and it's $500,
And
baby.
it seems like Dean has one setting too. Like, this is the best solution I have to all problems.
I got 500 on it.
I got 5 on
Mr.
it.
Torrance, you have cancer. Here's $500.
You're the unofficial mayor of Huntington Beach. It's $500.
Mr. Torrance, you are the father. There's $500? Do you need $500? Do babies eat $500? I don't know. Surf's up, man.
Back to the hideout. Keenan tells Tight-Lip Jr. that he and Ansler are only low-level goons in this caper, and that one of the big boys is coming to get that number from him. The imposing figure of John Irwin enters the room. Quote, you got to give me a phone number so we can wrap this up. And Frank Jr. says, shoot me, beat me up, whatever. I'm not giving you a phone number because I ain't scared of you guys. But as it turns out, they didn't need a phone number because immediately following his son's abduction, Frank Sinatra Sr. Received offers for assistance from Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, Sam Giancana. He declined those offers, but instead accepted aid from the FBI. So we heard on the radio that Sinatra and the FBI had set up headquarters at the Mapes Hotel in Reno. So we got the number from information. It was pretty simple, actually. We went to the library, got a Reno phone book, and found a Chevron station where we knew that the phone wouldn't be tapped. And Irwin called an expectant, edgy Frank Sinatra and said, your boy's okay. You can talk to him, but you got to get to this Chevron station in 15 minutes. So what they didn't realize is that the listings for Carson City, Nevada and Reno were in the same book, and the station they had chosen is actually 40 minutes away from Reno in Carson City. Sinatra's in Reno. Frank grabs an FBI man. They jump into a car and make a 40-minute drive into a 20-minute drive. Irwin calls the station in 15 minutes, and this is a great scene. You might even start the movie with this. Irwin calls the station after 15 minutes. Quote, is Frank Sinatra there? The Chevron man answers, no. Click. Irwin calls back a second time. Is Frank Sinatra there? Listen, buddy, I'm working on a car. I don't have time to play games. Don't call again. Click. Irwin calls the third time. Is Frank Sinatra there? Listen, pal, Frank Sinatra is not in the habit of taking his calls at a fucking Chevron station, okay? He hangs up. 2 seconds later, a black car peels into the station, brakes screeching to a halt. The passenger door is flung open. Frank Sinatra bounds out, brilliant blue eyes ablaze. He runs up, grabs the slack-jawed attendant by the front of his shirt. Quote, I'm Frank Sinatra. Have I got any calls?
Holy shit.
Irwin calls one more time, and a panting Sinatra grabs the phone, and the conversation goes something like this. What do you want? Money? Of course. How much? I'll give you $1 million if you let my son go. This was not in the plan. Well, we don't need $1 million. I'll tell you how much we need tomorrow. Can I talk to my son? A conversation ensues that consists of, are you all right? And yeah, click. Keenan gets back from cleaning up his hotel room in Reno and arrives at the hideout just in time to find a nervous Irwin and Amsler demanding that they get going with the ransom collection. In his absence, Amsler and Jr., quote, had really been bonding. They were doing pantomimes of their favorite Wallace Beery movies. So he comes back, and the goon that's supposed to be watching him is just like, oh, you're funny, Frank. This is cool.
Yeah.
You want a pantomime?
You want to do pantomimes?
And I don't know if you've ever seen Barton Fink, Wallace Beery, a lot of wrestling pictures he did.
Yes, he did. That's right. I love that shit. And it's just so great. It's like, I don't know, I'm getting kind of bored. You want to play Pictionary? Like, they're playing Monopoly and shit. It's like, dude, you're not supposed to be friends with the guy. He's supposed to be scared of you. So
I like that the kidnapper also got Stockholm syndrome. Like he's also like
everyone gets everything.
Everyone's just like, this is cool, right? Like this is
whole
fun.
Thing is awesome.
That's the thing. Like the saddest thing about this again is like Sinatra Jr. should just hang out with these guys.
Yeah.
Leave his bullshit behind.
Yeah.
And they should all get construction jobs.
Or just hire these guys to be his like entourage.
Sure.
Yeah. You can listen, if there's any pop stars listening, I will be your friend for not that much money. You just pay me.
We will talk about wrestling movies.
We will hang out. Yeah,
I
man.
love how they got offered 4 times the amount of money they were looking for.
And they don't know what to do. So that night, they put in the big call to Sinatra, demanding $240,000 from the grief-stricken chairman of the board, giving him explicit instructions on how and where to deliver the ransom. An FBI courier must follow the trail of payphones, receiving directions at each one, finally making the drop with the bills in a black satchel between 2 parked school buses at a gas station on Sunset Boulevard. And there's actually pictures of this. We'll put this up on our Twitter of the gas station at the Texaco station on Sunset, not 2 miles from where we're sitting right now. 2 old buses are parked side by side. So the instructions was to drop the money in between those 2 buses.
So wait, were they given those instructions as, like, was that the last thing they were told?
Yeah. So
in the sequence of phone calls?
They basically tried to scatter the cops by being like, this is how much we want. Go to the Chevron station at such and such and such and such, and we'll tell you where to drop it. And then they go to that one, and then they'd be like, all right, go to the next one, and we'll tell you what time, that kind of thing. So they basically were trying to just scatter their resources so they could never, have enough manpower necessarily to track what was going on.
So they couldn't just converge a SWAT team on one spot.
Right. Well,
Well, actually.
Keenan and Amsler, nerves on hair triggers, depart into the night and make the pickup. The black satchel is there. Keenan lets Amsler out to grab it while he circles the block. 4 right turns later, and he can see the buses. He can see the satchel sitting there, but Amsler is nowhere to be found. Suddenly, this is a quote, suddenly there's taxi cabs, ice cream trucks, all kinds of stuff driving around. I can sense it's the FBI. I put the money in the car and took off. So he's just seeing a bunch of weird. In my head, it's like twisted metal. It's just like the ice cream truck, and there's the guy with the 2 wheels in between, and like a hearse. Like Rob Zombie's got Dragula going down the street. Like it's just a bunch of weird cars, and the guy's like, something ain't right.
The Wienermobile.
The Wienermobile.
A clown car.
Yeah. So he takes off. But there's a little surprise in store for him at the hideout. Quote, I get back to the house and there's no Irwin and no Junior, he says, and now I'm freaking out. Our fingerprints are absolutely everywhere. So I quickly try to wipe the place down, gather up everything I could, burned the 3-ring binder containing the plan of operations. Another, you
Good
can add
call.
that.
Good
add
call.
that to the snow tires of good calls, and got out. I was about to block away when lines of police and FBI cars came heading for the house. So, so these got the cops are coming. Keenan and the money make it to a friend's apartment where he casually asked to spend the night. Sure, Barry. And so for the first time in days, Barry actually gets to sleep. Back at the pickup site, Amsler freaks out about the FBI presence, jumps a fence, and makes a beeline for his wife's place. At the hideout, Irwin, too, freaks out and calls Frank Sr. to fill him in and drives, at Junior's request, to the Sunset Boulevard overpass of the 405 freeway, where he lets Junior out of the car. Junior, freaked out as well, hides in some bushes as as passing headlights flash, understandably paranoid that his captors would change their mind and return to get him. Because at this point, he knows they're stupid, so they might come back with a gun and be like, hey, actually, bro, get back in the car. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. We're trying, dude.
I would love if this story ended with him just living in that bush for the rest of his life. Like, the story was like, and if you go there today, you can still hear Frank Sinatra Jr. in the bush.
Yeah, they sell tickets. Come to the Ficus. See Frank Sinatra Jr.
Ficus Sinatra Jr.
Ficus Sinatra Jr. So Frank's out, and he manages to hide himself in those bushes so well that his own father, driving up and down the street, can't find him at the prearranged spot. So,
Jesus. Can't believe this really happened.
So, gathering his fortitude, Junior walks into Bel Air and reveals himself to the security guard at the East Gate, who drives him.
Reveals himself. It is I,
Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra Jr.
My big
Ever heard
debut
of me?
production number.
no longer kidnapped and ready to sing.
I now know what true friendship means.
Just all covered in leaves and sticks from
Yeah.
the bushes.
You know, it wasn't really about the kidnapping. It was about the friends I made along the way.
That's right. It's never about the destination. It's about the journey.
That's right. There is no pot of gold, baby, just the rainbow.
Cut to the complex on Hollywood Boulevard, on Santa Monica Boulevard's Frank Sinatra one-man show.
It's
The
empty.
things I learned during my kidnapping.
With money firmly in their grasp, Keenan delivers Dean Torrance's share.
Oh.
So he gives Dean back the $1,500, thus seemingly sealing his fate. When you really think about what's just happened here, Keenan and Amsler decide to enjoy the cash in one way or another. Quote, "We laid out all the money on the floor and danced on it. We lit cigarettes with it. We did all the things we'd seen in the movies," said Keenan. "We had a money war. We were throwing wads of bills at each other.
Money war.
They're children. They're stupid, stupid children."
God, this guy rules.
It's the fucking best. They have a money war. It's literally the scene in Breaking Bad where Bill Burr and Lavelle Crawford are like
Yeah, they're
sitting
laying
on the
on the
money.
big thing.
It's like,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's fucking great. So the exultant currency skirmishes were not to last. The authorities close in fast. On his way to hide out in New Orleans, Irwin stops in San Diego to visit his brother, who he tells the entire story to.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
While Irwin sleeps, his brother turns him in for the money, for the reward money.
Uh-huh.
Oh, brother, where art thou? You know,
Yeah, oh, sure, yeah.
you damn hog wallop. You know,
I like the fact that they had gotten away with this even to this point.
it's crazy.
It is mind-blowing.
You tell no one.
If he had just shut the fuck up,
Don't say a goddamn thing.
like, I mean, the worst kidnapping in history.
Hey,
and-
bro, remember when you used to think I was a pussy? Well,
I got news for
get a
you.
load of this.
Newsflash. Yeah.
I got a tough voice, and that's where they wanted me.
The brother took the reward money, invested in Marina Del Rey. And
That built Marina Del Rey. Marina Del Rey was built on the discomfort of the Sinatra family for 48 hours. So Amsler is taken while playing chess at a friend's house, and the FBI gets Keenan.
Amsler plays chess.
That struck me a little funny. Where I was like,
Yeah.
the clam diver,
Yeah.
the clam diving boxer.
The guy who was clearly the strategic mastermind at every turn.
but also the only practical guy. I do think he put those snow chains on. There's no way. But
he's the only one who said maybe we shouldn't do this and brought snow chains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Practical. He's a pragmatic guy.
He applied for the construction jobs. He's already miles ahead of the rest of the gang.
It's what everyone should have been doing. Just apply for jobs.
This guy is like cum laude compared to everybody else.
So he's playing chess when he gets busted. The FBI gets Keenan at his girlfriend's place. Virtually all of the ransom is returned, apart from the small amount that Keenan had given to his ex-wife, some to Dean Torrance, and apparently some that they lit on fire.
That's not coming back.
When the FBI informs Sinatra, this is crazy. So Keenan gave his ex-wife some money to buy furniture. When the FBI informs Sinatra about this, Sinatra, cool as shit, waves his hand and says, "Christ, let her keep the furniture." So Sinatra's cool. During the trial, which took place in the spring of 1964, controversy erupted when the defendants claimed that Frank Sinatra Jr. had orchestrated the abduction as an elaborate publicity stunt. Just to twist the fucking knife in there, not only the guy get kidnapped, the defense lawyer's like, maybe we can get out of this by saying it was his idea, even though it's clearly not.
But the thing is like, having listened to Frank Sinatra Jr. up to this point, it's like, that sounds plausible.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, it really does.
So Gladys Root, a flamboyant Los Angeles attorney, and I saw him called flamboyant in at least 3 contemporaneous articles. So I might do an episode on Gladys Root. I'm going to look
flamboyant. Wink, wink.
I'm just imagining he's comes in with like a Ric Flair robe or something and spins around.
Comes in with confetti.
Yeah, I spend more money on spilled liquor than you spent on your house. Somebody try to keep these alligators down. So Gladys Root, a flamboyant Los Angeles attorney, pursued this line of defense despite the fact that there was no evidence supporting the accusation. Torrance, Keenan, Irwin, Amsler, all twisting their stories to cover their respective asses. Torrance miraculously escaped without punishment. So weirdly, the famous guy didn't have to do as much jail as the non-famous people. Isn't that strange?
Well, look, to be fair, all he was bringing to the table is giving $500 to a friend every time the friend bothered him.
Every time $500 Pez dispenser.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't he just zoned out at a certain point where he was just be like, "Yeah, I kidnapped Frank. Yeah, $500, right? You want $500?"
On the stand, Junior did admit to the jury that he'd said to his abductors at one point, quote, "Man, I hope you guys get away with this." He admitted that in court.
You guys are pretty fucking cool.
Literally, he just wanted friends.
Yeah, those are some wild guys. Those some crazy guys.
They got some cool pills too.
So
cool pills. This guy can do a really good Wallace Beery impression. I mean, they're all right guys.
Ooh, hot nights, cool pills, good times.
That's right.
Boomer 98.3 and my kidnappers.
They hate my dad too.
They also hate my dad. These guys are pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Did you guys know that these guys know Dean Torrance? That is pretty cool, man.
Pretty cool.
Dean Torrance, man.
Wow, that's
Jan and Dean, dude.
Jan and Dean. Fucking little old lady from Pasadena, bro.
Guy's a high voice.
He said, "I hope you guys get away with this." Even after Keenan and the others were convicted, the rumors about the abduction being a hoax persisted until Frank Sinatra Jr.'s dying day. It also didn't work. When sentencing time rolled around, Keenan and his associates all got 75 years plus life for this kidnapping. This is from the New York Times in 1964. Quote, "Keenan, an unemployed salesman, and Amsler, an unemployed shellfish diver, listened to the jury's report impassively. Irwin, a house painter, commented, quote, I don't think this will do any material damage to me." So, still got that tough voice. You love to see it. Still got that tough voice.
I like the fact that he's like,
75 years to life.
my wife tried to kill herself. I'm a house painter. This isn't big difference.
Yeah. As wild as that sentence is, it actually did qualify them for psychiatric evaluation. Keenan says, quote, "They said in effect that I was legally and mentally insane at the time of the kidnapping and we had no criminal malice and it didn't fit the profile of a normal criminal." This brought their sentence down to 25 years. All three pursued appeals and the judge organized his files to forward the appellate court. He came across a summary from the medical center that differed from the one that he'd originally reviewed. Because of this technicality, the judge reduced Keenan's sentence to 12 years. Amsler and Irwin were back on the streets in 3.5 years, and after only 4.5 years, Keenan was a free man in 1968. So he went from 75 years plus life to 4.5 years in prison.
At least the story has a happy ending.
Well, for Keenan got a happy ending. In prison, Keenan had earned 17 cents an hour working as a purchasing agent and emerged with about $800 in his pockets. Which is more than Dean ever lent him in jail. Imagine how much he could have made in the real world. Friends,
gotta apply yourself.
Friends were there to help him, throwing a benefit party, and guess who threw the benefit party?
Frank Sinatra Jr.
Fucking Dean.
Oh, Jesus.
Dean threw the party for him.
Well,
so
it was a $500 party.
Dean's a solid bro. So yeah, he has the party. Torrance actually leased his car to Keenan, and he was able to step back into real estate. By the 1970s, Keenan was involved in projects that included office buildings, apartments, retirement homes, RV parks. By 1983, his net worth was $17 million.
Oh, good God.
He committed to the 12-step program and got clean. The thrice divorced Keenan now lives in Texas, has a farm in Mississippi, an apartment in Los Angeles, and if his $3 billion resort deal goes through, Keenan stands to rake in millions. So he's fucking, as of 1998 when this was written, loaded. I assume probably still pretty well off at this point. After he was released from prison, Joe Amsler worked as a stunt double and a bodyguard for Ryan O'Neal, so he becomes Brad Pitt's character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In such movies as The Thief Who Came to Dinner and What's Up, Doc? He left Hollywood in the 80s to work...
By the way, bodyguard for Ryan O'Neal is Coke Fetcher. That's what
yeah, for him and his daughter.
Yeah.
He left Hollywood in the 80s to work construction jobs and was later a handyman on a California ranch before moving to Virginia. He died on May 6, 2006. After the death of Jan Barry in 2004, Dean Torrance began touring occasionally with the Surf City All-Stars. He serves as an ambassador and spokesman for the city of Huntington Beach, which
to the other cities.
Huntington.
So he just goes.
If Huntington Beach wants to declare war on Redondo,
yeah.
They send him first, and then he's the guy who gets kicked into the pit by the Gerard Butler.
Yeah,
he tells the unofficial mayor what to do.
Yeah.
Oh God. Thanks in part to his efforts, Huntington Beach is nationally recognized as Surf City, USA. I read that in the Wikipedia and I put it down because I'm like, no, it's not. No one's called Huntington Beach that. He currently resides in Surf City with his wife and 2 daughters.
Wow.
John Irwin completely disappeared into the fog of time. I could find 0 things, which means he got smart and he shut his fucking mouth after getting arrested because he talked to his brother.
Or he was killed by the mob.
Or Frank Giancana, had him wearing cement shoes at the bottom of the ocean.
Sure.
During the 1960s, Frank Sr.'s career continued to flourish with hit records and movie roles. Even Nancy Sinatra found success as a pop singer, but Frank Jr. was destined to become a nostalgia act before he turned 25. This is his obituary I'm reading. Jr. found modest success in singing in hotel lounges and nightclubs and took occasional acting jobs in film and television, playing himself as a member of a group of poker players on The Sopranos. And he also did voiceovers as himself in the animated series Family Guy.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Frank Jr. was on Family Guy. In 1988, Frank Jr. received a call from his father asking him to become his musical director. So he's the guy conducting Frank's orchestra.
Yeah.
During concerts, Jr. kept his back to the audience, wearing a tuxedo with a dull finish because he said he did not want to outshine his father. If the band made a mistake in rehearsal, the singer would often berate his son, who took the abuse as part of his musical and filial duty. If his father forgot the lyrics to the song, his son would sing them while conducting to guide his father back on course.
God. Jesus.
Quote, I have to see that my general is prepared at all times, he told GQ magazine in 1994. That he never goes into battle unprepared.
Oh, what a huge asshole.
It's so sad. Frank Sinatra gave his final performance in 1995 and died 3 years later at the age of 82. His son kept the flame alive until the end, traveling all over the world with a show called Sinatra Sings Sinatra. Even after his father's death, Mr. Sinatra maintained a sense of formality and distance toward his dad. He rarely spoke of him as his dad or his father, but he would call him Frank Sinatra, as if he was talking about a stranger. He told Britain's Telegraph newspaper in 2012, quote, "Over all these years, I've never had a hit movie, never had a hit television program, never had a hit record. To my way of thinking, that means success has not been achieved. I have made no mark. When I was younger, sure, I wanted to have some degree of, shall we say, identity, but it never came." This is Frank Sinatra Jr.'s last interview on this earth.
Well, the last picture is the family during the holidays as we go to break. And tell us a little bit about this one, Frank.
I don't know anything about that one because I was not present.
Oh, okay. I think that's 1962 or 63, and
but
that's
you said
Nancy
the holidays
and Tina.
were always we have the best memories were at holiday times. That's what somebody told us. Probably a member of the committee.
When I was a young person, they used to refer to it as Christmas time. Of course, now it has to be politically correct and called the holidays.
I'll say Christmas time.
Very good. So do I.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay. That's it. So that's literally the last time he was on a camera.
All my pity for him just went out the window.
War on Christmas. Well, this is what happens to these people. They don't get enough love from their dad, and they become reactionary shitheads.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happens to these people. It's why they're into guns. It's because their dad didn't love them. They taught them how to shoot a fucking gun, and now that's what they've got. Their dad didn't show them any affection, so they attach affection to their kidnappers.
Yeah.
This is what happens. It's sad. It's a fucking tragedy.
And in 1961, you weren't having Christmas with your father. What the fuck?
Well, what's funny is that she goes, "Oh, this was either Christmas 1962 or 1963." I was like, got a feeling it's 62. Because Christmas 63, he was definitely with the family for that Christmas, considering that is the month he was released from captivity. Frank Sinatra Jr. died in his sleep of a massive heart attack in his hotel room in Dayton Beach, Florida on May 16th, 2016.
Wow.
Died in Florida.
Suddenly. He was on tour. They went to wake him up at his hotel, and he didn't wake up.
Correct.
How old was he?
He was 72. Yeah.
Oof. I'll tell you, but we would always have that one crazy summer. You know? Sure, life beat us down a little bit later on, but we'd always have that crazy summer where we were just kids, you know? Also,
they're taking away Christmas from us. It's not the holidays, it's Christmas. It's Christmas, Matt. Are you Matt Bauer? Where am I? It's Christmas. It's not the Harlem days.
Your name's Cotby? There's no consonants in there. How is it Cotby?
I understand it's Christmas. I was never allowed to be in the same room with my father, but I understand it's called Christmas. Oh, with that one crazy summer. I'll tell you.
I keep imagining Frank Sinatra Jr. and this group of idiots basically in Stand By Me.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like what...
Oh, yeah. They're all like cutting each other's like with like a Coke can or whatever. It's like, now we're blood brothers.
Yeah. But the body they found was his own captivity.
Yeah. Oh, boy. What a crazy time to be alive.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, we have closing thoughts on the Frank Sinatra Jr. I am man, I've been working on that. I'm so happy that it came out as funny as I was. I was like, this gets fucked up, but it's always got kind of an airy energy because of how stupid everyone is. You're like, there's almost no. You're like, there's no one to root for, but there's not necessarily any bad guys in this story except for Frank Sinatra Sr.
It's 100% pure, undiluted buffoonery.
It's
like
just
going
from top to bottom.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Except for Frank Sr., who's evil.
It will make you believe in the stupidity of mankind. It's
really-
almost
Absolutely.
anti-inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. Like I said, it's the uncut gems of kidnapping.
It actually kind of makes me want to collect like a group of like 3 or 4 really dumb people and give them drugs and see what they come up with.
What happens? Yeah. Just him tying up Frank Sinatra Jr. going, this is how I win. Oh, Lordy. Okay.
Just the conversation with the trumpeter alone.
Yeah.
Of like, well, I said I'd be back and give you 10 minutes, and I'm back in 5, and so it's not really your fault. And like,
yeah.
I just think that, like,
it's so sad.
Okay.
Everyone here needs a friend.
Yeah.
Just if everyone had a friend as good as Dean Torrance, this world would be so much better.
Tell you.
Yeah.
Someone just writing $500 checks, no questions asked.
Questions asked. Yeah. Just everyone, just take that with you when you, when you go after listening to this podcast, when you go out into the world. Be as solid a bro as Dean Torrance.
When you have a friend that you are certain is mentally unstable,
give them a bunch of money.
Throw money
see what
at
happens.
it. Throw money at it.
You might end up in court. You might end up owning Marina Del Rey.
And there's a clear amount of money. It's $500. It's always $500.
Absolutely.
Just $500.
It's $500. It sounds like he felt the sack lunch was a good idea, part of it. Like, he's like, I'm really glad I brought that.
See, if I eat the sack lunch while he's trying to go blibble blabble about his problems, he'll be like, well, I don't want to interrupt your lunch.
And you just keep $500 at the bottom of the sack. And
that's right. Once I get through with my chippies, then I give him...
perfectly pleasant day.
Robert, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we got to have you back again soon,
What
man.
what a great story.
What a fucking crazy thing.
That was very fun. Oh, my God.
Oh, man. Where can people find you on the internet, sir?
Team Yasumura on Twitter. Team Yasumura, and Yasumura spelled Yasumura.
Yeah. Sam, where can people find you on the internet, sir?
Sam Harder on Facebook. Slam Harder on Instagram.
Hell yeah.
If you want to get on contact with me, the best way is to join the Patreon.
Get your actual...
I give out my phone number.
Yes.
Against all advice.
Against your flamboyant attorney has told you no.
Yeah.
But you press on.
Did your parents have to, like, join your Patreon to, like, call?
They got the secret number.
Yeah, I sometimes call them. When I need $500.
Carter, where can people find you on the internet, sir?
You can find me at Instagram, Carter_Glasscock. I changed it.
What?
I changed it just to my name.
Oh,
people are having trouble finding me on Instagram, so I changed it.
No more Dr. Clark.
No more Dr. Clark. It's kind of bittersweet.
Is retired.
Kind of bittersweet. Yeah. So now it's at Carter_Glasscock because some people were telling me it's kind of hard to find me on the internet.
Okay.
On Instagram and Twitter, Carter_Glasscock.
So now
Facebook.
you can go Twitter and Instagram at Carter_Glasscock.
That's right. Twitter and Instagram at Carter_Glasscock. And that's where you can find me.
Hell
on
yeah.
Facebook.
And of course, the best way to support this show is to go to patreon.com/thegoodspod. $5 a month gets you access to a bonus show every week. It also gets you access to having your name read by a celebrity at the end of the show. And today, we've got a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, just in line with the theme of today's episode in so many ways, he is the recently scorned at the Oscars for his magnificent role in Marriage Story. Ray Liotta's here, everybody. Ray, tell us who our new patrons are.
Yeah, thanks. Hi. See, the first guy we had, he's always been a good guy. And I remember him being one of the first patrons to really contribute to the podcast.
Yeah.
His name is Lee Keeler.
Yeah, Lee
or is it Key Leeler?
No, it's Lee Keeler. Shout out to Lee Keeler listening in Iowa. He actually is a former guest of the show.
See, back in those days, if you were in Iowa, there was no show to be had.
It was just corn, where you could bury Joe Pesci.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's
Joe
a different
was there.
movie, but still.
Joe was there. So was Bobby. So was Jimmy Nose.
Jimmy knows. He does know. He knows everything.
We called him that because he had a nose.
Oh, they were all there. Ask Jeeves was there.
Tony the Tiger.
Tony the Tiger.
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader was there. See, here's the thing. Darth Vader had a thing with his voice, and it would crack a lot because he was a smoker, you understand?
But he quit using...
He quit because he used Chantix.
That's
And I'm
right.
here on behalf of Chantix to tell you, the thing about Chantix is it gives you nightmares, actual nightmares. But it feels great snorting it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Next on the list, we got Ian Anderson. I believe he was the lead singer of Jethro Tull. So shout out to the Aqualung there. Johnny Toyota was there. He drove a Prius.
The Trix Rabbit.
The Trix Rabbit was there.
The Volkswagen Rabbit.
Sir Ian McKellen was there. Is he knighted? I don't know.
Yes.
Next up, we got Johnny Mose.
Johnny Mose. Shout out to Johnny Mose, former guest of the show, listening in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Speaking of the Bellwether Variety Show, performed with Johnny Mose many times on that crazy shit show down there in Auburn. So thank you so much to all of our new patrons at patreon.com/thegoodspod. For the price of a cup of coffee in the big time, you can become a member of the Tower of Power. And of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rivers Langley, and you can find the show at The Goods Pod on Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff. The second best way to support this show, besides donating to the Patreon, would be to go to Apple Podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. And that shows the attitude of gratitude. And if you don't have the attitude of gratitude,
we're going to make you live in your father's shadow.
That's the scariest one you've done yet,
Sam. See you next week. The Goods from the Woods was mixed, edited, and distributed by me, Rivers Langley. You can find the show on Twitter at The Goods Pod. Our theme song was composed by DJ Smiles. Check him out on Twitter at DJ Smiles.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.